Hello, and today in social studies, we're going to learn about different kinds of communities. Probably where you live or maybe other people live, those are different kinds of communities. What makes up a community? A community is a group of people who live in an area. We'll click on the globe and watch a video in just a minute. And then communities have many characteristics. We are going to drag some of the words inside each characteristics. They can have physical, things that are created by nature like trees or grass or rocks, human, things that are built, or cultural, things that people do. So first, let's watch the video.
Welcome to Kids Academy.
Hello, let's get started on the lesson. A community is a place where people live together. There are many different types of communities. In this lesson, you will learn about 3 common types: urban, suburban, and rural. An urban community is large and highly populated. This means that lots of people live there. In urban communities, you will see tall buildings or skyscrapers, traffic, and transportation. New York City is an urban community. Look at all the tall buildings and busy people. New York is called the city that never sleeps. Why? It's because these bright lights stay on all night long. An urban community could be busy both day and night. Most people live in apartment buildings in an urban community, although some live in homes. Since urban communities are so crowded, there are many apartments and homes located right beside one another. A suburban community, or a suburb, is located near a city. It is not as populated as an urban community. There is less traffic and smaller buildings. Some people who live in suburban communities travel to a nearby city for work. This is called commuting. Look at the L train from Chicago. This train travels to and from Chicago and its surrounding suburbs. There are not many buses and trains in a suburban community, so most people drive to work. Many people live in homes in suburban communities. These homes are usually very spacious and beautiful. They have amenities or special features, such as large backyards and garages. A rural community has very few people and buildings. In fact, it mainly consists of farmland. You might see lots of animals and natural scenery such as trees and grassy plains. People live in small houses that are spaced far apart. Some houses are located miles away from one another. Look at this home. It stands alone. Would you like to live here? Why or why not? Let's review. An urban community is large and highly populated. A suburban community, or a suburb, is located near a city. It is not as populated as an urban community. A rural community has very few people and buildings. It mainly consists of farmland. What type of community do you live in? Think about it. Look around your community. What do you see? Thanks for watching. Goodbye.
Subscribe to our channel to stay.
Now we're going to continue to look at those 3 types of communities, but first let's try to categorize all of these different physical, human, or cultural things that are found in a community. How about clothing? Clothing is a cultural aspect of a community. Maybe some people in Florida wear clothing that is really light because it's very hot. Or maybe of their different cultural backgrounds, they wear a specific kind of clothing. Maybe they always wear something around their head. That is a cultural aspect of a community. Bridges are something made by a human. So that is a human. Bridges just weren't there. They didn't start there. We had to build them. Food is also cultural. Maybe you've heard of different kinds of food, like you could have Mexican food or American food, or maybe a New York pizza. That is a cultural part of a community. Farms are something that humans add to a community. Homes are also something they add to a community. Now, rivers and lakes weren't built there, they were already there. It was created by nature. So it is a physical part of a community. Climate and weather. So the communities in New York have different weather and climate than us in Indiana, and also people in Florida and the south of the United States. Land and formations. In some states, they have mountains. In some states like us, we have a lot of flat land. That is a physical characteristics made by nature. Now, parks are kind of in between. I'll put it human and in physical because we mark off physical parts. So humans mark off physical parts of a community for their people to enjoy. Also, holidays are a cultural aspect of a community. Now, an urban community, we're going to look at this one first. An urban community is in the city. Urban communities have busy streets, apartments, and large businesses. Tall buildings provide homes and work for many people. Most buildings are close together. A lot of people live in urban communities. Other people drive to the city for work or for entertainment. People travel by walking, riding bikes, driving cars, and taking buses or trains. Now, if you look at these 4 pictures at the bottom, let's circle any of them that show an urban community. I saw that there are buses in urban communities, so I'm going to put a circle around a bus. Are there farms in urban communities? No. Are there cars? But in this picture, I don't see any tall buildings. In the last one, I do see tall buildings all around. That could be a urban community. A little bit further out, so let's pretend that an urban community is like Indianapolis, a big city, or maybe Chicago. Suburban cities are right outside of big cities. There are many homes in the suburbs with sidewalks and yards. Suburbs have many different neighborhoods and parks. People who live in suburbs like being close to the city without all the traffic and noise. People often live in suburbs and drive to the city for work. Now I'm looking for a spot that might have like a sidewalk for people to walk. And this middle one also looks like the suburbs. There's long streets where there are a lot of homes. Many, many people live in the suburbs. So I want you to be thinking about, do you think you live in the urban communities or suburban communities? So if we are having urban communities as like Indianapolis, suburban communities as maybe bigger cities with lots of lots of homes, maybe like Lafayette. Rural communities is the final one, and they have a lot of open land. It is often called the country. Suburban communities have quite quiet streets, farms, houses, and open fields. People travel to the communities to buy the things they need. There are not many people in urban communities. Homes and buildings are far apart. Much of the land is used for farming and raising animals. So you would see rural communities maybe in out by McCutcheon area where those schools are. There are a lot of cornfields over there. That would be considered a rural community. So I see these two over here that have fields and farm homes that are really far apart. On your assignment today, you're going to be looking at each picture and then describing what you see. Do you see tall buildings? Do you see a lot of cars? Do you see a lot of traffic? Do you see a lot of animals and farms? Do you see a lot of homes? I want you to write in the empty space in between what you see. And then decide if it's urban, which has a lot of tall buildings, suburban, or rural. Urban, suburban, or rural. Show you these one more time. Urban, suburban, and rural. After you've completed that assignment, I want you to describe your community. What do you know about your community? What is the weather like? How does it change during the year? What is the land like? Are there landforms in your community? Is the land flat? What traditions does your community have? Write those in the blanks below and then describe what type of community yours is at the bottom.